Our friends at Project Veritas, they are back. Yesterday, the first in what will be a series of one of their members going undercover and becoming a part of Antifa, now designated a domestic terrorist organization. But they've been able to infiltrate this group, this radical group. We talked yesterday about, it's like this clandestine covert ops type of organization. Where they get their money from, how much money they have, we don't know. But we got into a little bit of what it is that their philosophy is and what they're all about, because we do believe the Attorney General has said it, other lawmakers have said it as well, that a lot of what we see in terms of the violence in the cities all across the country, it's quite organized. Trace Gallagher over at the Fox News Channel describing the positioning, the staging of bricks in certain areas where they expect there's going to be confrontations with the police. We've seen a lot of police injured. Then you also have other groups. You have Black Lives Matter, as we've been talking about as well. But in the case of Antifa, or as some say, Antifa, now James O'Keefe's group, they've now gone deeper. And, my knowledge of martial arts, again, I'm a student of the arts. I've been a student for 7 years. I use an eclectic blend of arts: Krav Maga, Kempo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, situational street fighting. That would be sticks, knives, guns, etc. Just real combative defense measures for me, and also a great workout. But you can hear, and as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, okay, whoever is teaching these techniques does have a foundational knowledge of real street fighting to not only damage, but potentially even kill. And I'll tell you what I mean. The first tape you're going to hear is a person talking about, quote, combat training using kidney punches. That's a very strategic punch, targeted punch, somebody's kidney, and if you hit it the right way in the right spot and you know what you're doing, you can cause a lot of damage. Then they're talking about, we've heard a lot about chokes. If I put you in what's called a rear naked choke, in other words, I would slide one of my arms in and around the neck where my forearm bone, if you will, on the side is literally pressing down into the carotid arteries on both sides, the left and right side. Then you wrap it around the person's shoulders and you put your other hand pretty much holding it in place, and a person cannot get out of that hold if you have any level of strength at all. And they describe that. Now, that's called choking somebody out. If you really get in there and you know how to do a rear naked choke, that person can die. That's why I kept saying with the video, as it relates to George Floyd, that the pressure on the neck and the most vulnerable part of the human anatomy means something. Anyway, listen, this is now part 2, James O'Keefe, Project Veritas.
If you get a good liver or kidney shot, it's pretty much crippling. You're going to be doubled over and in a lot of pain. You break one of the floating ribs, which are small ribs down here. Those are also very painful. It's hard to move after that. It's hard to catch your breath. So one good body shot could potentially give you all the time in the world to run away while they're doubled over in pain. Right. Or really put a beating on them after that if you really don't like the person. We just kind of want to, in the space, reframe the idea of self-defense as not simply you're being acted upon by an aggressor, but it's a kind of a decision you make to fight back. In a lot of ways to say, I'm human and I occupy this space and I'll be not with my nose, side of my head. You could definitely do it from here, but like from here and just feel and then you want to follow it up with something else. Yeah. So if that doesn't knock him out, then the nose, the base, the eyes, poke the eyes at the end of the day. We call this a safe space to practice aggression, not aggression against one another, but really just a space that if you want to, or if you will want to challenge yourself to kind of work on harnessing that kind of energy.
It seems like more people are using like thin batons.
Yeah, which we can totally do defense against objects, but it's hard to do defense against blunt objects when someone's holding a shield.
Yeah.
Because defense against blunt objects involves trying to hit me. That kind of shit. If you've got a shield, like what?
They just bash them.
So the main takeaway from C-Bill was just stay away. You know, bouncers like to choke people from the back.
Yeah.
Rear naked chokehold. That shit is used all the time. Like, someone will just come up behind you. Or the other thing.
The bear hug.
Is super, super simple.
You just drop your body weight, right?
Crazy simple. So the idea is you step to the side, grab the person, and then slam them down. Okay? That's one way. So here's the other way. Hey, come on, choke me.
You step. You grab his.
Or you just ugly elbow. He will let go.
So very sophisticated. Now, remember, the cops, there are peaceful protesters. There are people that are genuinely, rightly, they're righteous in their desire for justice in the case of George Floyd. Now, amongst them, though, are these agitators. And what are they talking about? Rear naked chokes. They're talking about, nose, eyes, poking the eyes, gouging the eyes. These are very, very, very specific, targeted training moves by people that want to win a real street fight, except the cops don't recognize these agitators amongst the peaceful protesters, so that they never know what they're facing at any given moment. That makes it their job, again, 3 times harder. Anyway, James O'Keefe back with us, Project Veritas. Those are very specific, very aggressive, and also the types of targeted strikes and chokes that do real damage.
Hey, Sean. Yeah, thank you for having me on again. And again, what's amazing about this next installment is that they're talking about poking people's eyes out again. Yesterday they were talking about eye gouging. And also one of the Antifa fight instructors was trying to rationalize these things as self-defense. He says they're not really self-defense, but we're gonna reframe this as self-defense. So it's not really self-defense. It's a kind of offensive violence, but they're suggesting that they could turn it into a type of self-defense in order to hurt people. And you really get an inside view here on this training, Sean. Some of the people in the media says this isn't even really an organization or a group. They say it doesn't even exist. Well, you're seeing inside of their trainings now.
Yeah, and you're talking about kidney shots. They're talking about gouging eyes, poking eyes. A lot about the neck here, rear naked chokes. And you're right. They're basically saying, well, we're going to say it's defensive, but we know it's not defensive. And, you get in a good kidney shot, it's pretty much crippling them, and they're going to be doubled over in a lot of pain. And if you break one of the floating ribs, which are small and right down here, well, those are very painful, too, and it's hard to move after that kind of shot to even catch your breath, which, by the way, is all true. One good body shot could potentially give you all the time in the world to run away while they're doubled over in pain, or really put a beating on them if you really want to make it personal. That sounds like planned violence and attacks to me.
Well, it sure is, Sean. And as I said to you yesterday, this is a group that believes in the so-called coming insurrection, according to one of their books, which is a left-wing manifesto from out of Europe. And we reported on this, that the Antifa's connection to Sweden, one of their founders, a woman named Caroline, came over from Sweden to Oregon to work with this group, Rose City Antifa. This one, Sean, is in something called Refuse Fa, New York City, Refuse Fascism, part of Antifa. And again, just looking at the tape, like you said, and Sean, when I met you, I know that you're an expert in to some degree in some of this martial arts stuff. I am not, but clearly, I loved how you broke that down. These guys know what they're doing, and they're training their members to commit acts of offensive violence. So my question is, we're going to keep putting out these videotapes. I'd love for whether it's the Attorney General or someone in government.
I was just going to ask that. I mean, I would imagine that the Attorney General probably wants to see this, especially after his comments that he made yesterday.
I'd imagine he's already seen it. I don't have any specific – no one's reached out to me yet. I've heard rumors that they would like to reach out to me, but nobody has called me. I'm willing to speak with the Department of Justice about this. We have more tapes, and you always ask me what's next. As I said to you, I want to give each and every one of these the justice it deserves. We don't even know some of these people's last name. We'd like to crowdsource that on the internet. We'd like people to find the last names. We tried to find the full names, but we have unmasked these people. They're not wearing their black block. They don't have the stuff covering their faces so you can see who they are. But we have another tape coming out on Monday, and it's even worse with weapons training. Here they're just talking about poking people's eyes out, but next we've got weapons they're using. So we hope.
Are we talking about sticks? Are we talking about knives? Are we talking about guns? Are we talking about all the above?
Guns. We're talking about guns, and I don't know if. I assume these guns are obtained lawfully, but we're talking about guns. This is the real deal. And we want people to take this seriously, but right now we have a media that doesn't even acknowledge their existence, denies reality, Sean. They don't even want to acknowledge this is a group. They're saying this is not a legitimate group after the Attorney General of the United States says they're a terrorist organization. So I don't know how you can deny the evidence of your eyes and ears after seeing these tapes.
I'm just telling you, I've done this. I'm a student now, 7 years in this, 4 or 5 days a week. This is what we do. And these are the most violent areas of attack that inflict the most damage. Now, I learn it for self-defense purposes. But whoever this instructor is not ignorant. Maybe evil, but is not ignorant. This person is very acutely aware of exactly because even an amateur, if you're taking somebody off guard and you have an open shot because they're not expecting it, you get, cold cock from behind, or they come up to you and get on you very quickly. All of what they're being taught can inflict massive damage. When you do an eye gouge, James, what that means is you take both thumbs, you push them way deep into the socket, and you rip them out. You will rip out their eyeball, and it's not hard to do. A rear naked choke, literally, if it's applied properly, and again, if somebody's caught off guard, they have no idea a fight's about to ensue, but this is their mission, and they have an intention of doing this. You throw that person, you lock in a rear naked choke, and you really lock it in, that person's going to drop unconscious in anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds. Done. Out. Cold.
Well, Sean, I think just to reiterate on the radio here, because we're on the radio, you can't see it. This Chris, the Antifa fight instructor, says, quote, we want to reframe the idea of self-defense as not simply you're being acted upon. That's an extraordinary statement. They want to reframe the very idea of self-defense. In other words, Antifa is saying we're not acting in self-defense, doing the eye gouges with the thumbs and the chokeholds and poking in the eye and getting a good kidney shot. They're trying to say that this is their entire philosophy, is to use this as an offensive gesture, and they're reframing it as self-defense. It's something out of Orwell's 1984. They're changing the very definition of self-defense. This is what they're on the tape saying when they don't know they're being taped.
Amazing. Stay right there. Project Veritas. You can find it on their website. We have a link on Hannity.com if it makes it easy for you. We'll show these on Hannity tonight, 9 Eastern, Fox News. Listen, we all want to save